Take the exit. Turn right into the drive-thru.
Nope, I'm making dinner tonight.
You don't have time. Josh has practice.
Oh, that's right. I'll just get a salad.
And fries?
No, just the salad.
But salad cancels fries.
Salad only.
Fries.
Salad.
Fries.
Food noise isn't fair, but Mochi Health is. The affordable GLP-1 source that puts you on the road to successful weight loss.
Hey, can I get the...
Fries.
Salad. Sorry.
Learn more at joinmochi.com. Mochi members have access to licensed physicians and nutritionists. Results may vary.
You know that thing where you get an amazing pair of shoes at a really great price and want to tell everyone about it? Yeah, so do we. Here at Designer Shoe Warehouse, we'll give you something to brag about, like the latest styles from brands you love, or the trends everyone's obsessing over, or shoes that make you feel like, well, you. So go ahead, show off a little. Find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today. DSW, let us surprise you.
Voices for Justice is a podcast that uses adult language and discusses sensitive and potentially triggering topics, including violence, abuse, and murder. This podcast may not be appropriate for younger audiences. All parties are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Some names have been changed or omitted per their request or for safety purposes. Listener discretion is advised. My name is Sarah Turney, and this is Voices for Justice. Today, I'm discussing the disappearance of 13-year-old Elisa Roberson from Aransas Pass, Texas. The case I'm going to tell you about today is truly filled with so many twists and turns that I couldn't fit it into just one episode. While researching and speaking with Elisa's sister Ruby, it feels like she literally disappeared into thin air. But of course, we know that is never the case. So over the next 2 episodes, I'll examine the evidence and discuss the many roads this investigation has taken over the past 35 years. This is the disappearance of Elisa Roberson. At about 6 p.m. on August 6, 1989, 12-year-old Ruby Roberson took a phone call that would change the rest of her life. The call came from Debbie Green, a friend of her older sister Elisa's. She called to ask if Elisa was home, and Ruby was irritated. Elisa had left to go meet Debbie about 20 minutes earlier. It was a whole ordeal. Elisa and Ruby's mom, Marina, already didn't want Elisa to go. It was a Sunday night, it was getting late, and she had good reason to not want 13-year-old Elisa walking home alone at night, which we'll get into later in the episode. But like teenagers do, Elisa and Debbie had a plan. Debbie would meet Elisa halfway, and then Debbie's dad would drive Elisa home so she wouldn't be walking alone in the dark. Their plan was to just play with some Barbies. Now, Marina told NBC News that this wasn't the first time the girls used this plan to squeeze in some extra time together. It had worked well in the past, so Marina gave in and said yes. But during this call, Debbie tells Ruby that Elisa never made it to the halfway point. Here's Ruby to explain.
Elisa had spent the night at her friend Charlotte's house Saturday night. So she spent the night there. She was with Elisa, or Elisa was with Charlotte that whole day. They just spent the whole day together. And my mom, Elisa would go to church with Charlotte, that they would just go to church, and they were going to go to evening services. So my mom just assumed they were going to go, and there was an understanding, that she could go. And I guess when they were getting on the bus, the church bus would pick up the little kids. Charlotte was getting on the bus, and Elisa just decided she wanted to come home. So she just came home. It was about 6 to 10 minute walk from Charlotte's house to her house. Everything was just so close to our whole lives revolved around just a few blocks, of this little small town. But so Elisa came home. She was home to stay, like she was done for the day. She was getting ready to, let's call it a night. And Debbie Green called, our little friend Debbie Green called and asked Elisa if she could come and hang out with her. And my mom told Elisa to tell Debbie it was getting late, that, that it's time for you to stay home. And Debbie had told her, well, I can walk halfway and meet you halfway, and then my dad can bring you home so you don't have to walk alone. And when she said that, my mom agreed to it and said, "Okay, well, that's okay." We'd gone over to Debbie's house. We were family friends. My mom knew their parents, they knew us. So it was just a normal thing, to have Mr. Green drop us off when it was getting late. So she wasn't home very long when she got home. So the school bus or church bus picked up the kids or Charla. They said it was between 5:15 to 5:20 when the bus came. And so Elisa would have left, let's just say about 5:20 by the time she got home, 5:30. A few minutes later, Debbie calls. So we think she was out of the house probably about 5:45, 5:40, 5:45. Um, they were going to meet at the local school, the Key River School, which was just a 6-minute walk from our house. That was the meeting spot. When Debbie gets there, Elisa's not there. So Debbie walks a little bit further, and we have some friends on the corner. Jennifer Taylor, her little brother Nathan, and their dad. They were all outside. And they saw Debbie, and Debbie said, "Oh, did you see Elisa?" Because Elisa would have walked that path. And they said, "Yeah, we saw her. We talked to her. She left we just saw her whatever it was, a few minutes ago. She was walking to the school." And so then Debbie turns around because our house was right there. She didn't come all the way to our house. We think she turned around because maybe I missed Elisa. Maybe she's talking to someone at the school because it was a big school. She could have been on the other side talking to friends. That was like normal for kids to always be there during the summer playing and hanging out. So Debbie goes back to her house because she doesn't find Elisa, and she calls us a second time, and I answer the phone, and she asked where Elisa was. And I know I've mentioned this before, I don't know. I think I might have been irritated with Elisa. I don't know if we were fighting. I don't even remember what it was about, but I was annoyed. And I said to Debbie, "I don't know and I don't care." And I've always felt guilt for that, for saying that.
Their community, and specifically neighborhood in Aransas Pass, Texas, was close-knit. The type of neighborhood where people spent time outside, said hello to their neighbors, and where the adults weren't afraid to redirect local kids, which is exactly what Elisa and Ruby's mom did to Debbie.
My mom, she's in the kitchen cooking. She says, "Tell Debbie Elisa should be with her right now." And there was a little bit of panic in my mom's voice when she said that, because it was almost like you know, a shout, like, "Tell Debbie she should be with her right now." And it kind of shocked me. I remember when she said that, I'm like, "Oh, this might be serious." And so Debbie said, "Well, I'm going to go back and look for her. And then maybe when I can't remember. So she goes, "I'm going to go back and look for her. Maybe when my dad gets back, we'll go look if we don't find her." So they go back out. I don't know how long it was. She goes back to her house and she calls again a third time. She says, "Is Elisa there?" "No, she's not here. We still can't find her." Because she was with another little friend of hers. They were walking together. Um, at that time, she goes, "When my dad gets home, we're going to go look for her." So then my mom tells me, start calling Elisa's friends, start calling all her friends. And so I just start, a lot of her friends were my friends too. And I start calling, I call our little friend Holly, "Is Elisa over there? Are you with Elisa? Do you know where she is?" "No, I haven't seen her." I called a handful of people, but when I called Jennifer and Nathan, because Nathan was her little on again, off again boyfriend, and Jennifer, they loved Elisa. It was like her second home there too. And so I called and I talked to Jennifer, and she says, "Yeah, we saw Elisa. She walked past our house about whatever time, She said she was going to go meet Debbie." So that was the first time that we hear that, someone saw her.
It's important to note here that Elisa's mom was raising 4 kids on her own and didn't have a car. So when Debbie's father, Bob Green, a good friend of the family, offered to look for Elisa, Marina decided to stay home while he drove the neighborhood to find her.
Bob Green was on the phone call at one point, and he wanted to talk to my mom, and he said, "Mrs. Roberson, has Elisa come home yet?" And she said, "No." And he said, "Stay put. We're going to go look for her." They go looking for her. I don't know how long it was they were looking for her, and they eventually meet back at our house. And They asked us, is Elisa here? Has she come home? And we said she's still not. We don't know where she is. None of her friends have seen her, but Jennifer and Nathan. And at that point, he said, Mrs. Roberson, you need to call the police now.
This episode of Voices for Justice is sponsored by Chewy. If you have pets, you probably know about Chewy, and you also know that when they say that they have everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy, they're not messing around. To keep them happy, Chewy has over 100,000 products from all the brands my pets love at prices I love. To keep them healthy, Chewy offers pet prescriptions, pet insurance, telehealth vet visits, and they're even rolling out vet clinics across the country. I've been shopping with them for a very long time. And in addition to the auto-ship feature that gets the dog's food to them every single month, I also love to experiment with different treats. But I'm a bit picky. For me, it has to be high quality with simple ingredients. I recently picked up treats from Shepherd Boy Farms that are 100% just chicken breast. Popcorn and Heber are already obsessed. Chewy has everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. And right now, you can save $20 on your first order and get free shipping by going to chewpanions.chewy.com/Sarah E. Turney. That's chewpanions.chewy.com/Sarah E. Turney to save $20 on your first order with free shipping. chewpanions.chewy.com/Sarah E. Turney. Minimum purchase required. New customers only. Terms and conditions apply. See site for complete details. This episode of Voices for Justice is brought to you by Quince. I've been trying to be more intentional about what I wear each day. I'm leaning into pieces that feel effortless, comfortable, and still put together, and Quince has been my go-to. The fabrics feel elevated, the fits are flattering, and everything just works without overthinking it. They use premium materials like 100% European linen, organic cotton, and ultra-soft denim. And the best part? Everything is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They work directly with ethical factories and cut out the middlemen, so you're paying for quality and craftsmanship, not brand markup. I recently just ordered their tiered linen dress, of course in black. I wanted to pair it with one of my favorite pairs of brown wedges. The problem was, I didn't have a brown purse. So I got that from Quince too. It's one of my favorite outfits. It's easy, effortless, and feels amazing, especially as we're getting a little bit warmer here in Phoenix. Refresh your everyday with luxury you'll actually use. Head to quince.com/justice for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/justice for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/justice. 13-year-old Elisa Roberson was reported missing to the Aransas Pass Police Department at approximately 9:45 p.m. on August 6, 1989. And the initial response was unfortunate.
I was the one that made the call because it says my mom wants a police officer to come to her house. My sister's missing, or we can't find my sister. And so then a police officer came to our house and took the report. And I remember again the kind of like the nonchalance, well, she's probably talking to her friend or she'll show up, she doesn't, then call us back, but she'll be home, don't worry about it. So there didn't seem to be much urgency.
The thing is, the responding officer didn't follow procedure. He was supposed to contact Lieutenant Linda Thompson about any incidents involving a minor. She told Dateline that this was department policy. Basically, if a child was involved in any offense in any way, she was to be contacted immediately. But for some reason, that didn't happen. She also told Dateline that she believes had the officer followed procedure, they might have been able to find Elisa and solve this case. But it was also more than just procedure for Linda. She knew Elisa and her entire family. Elisa's younger brother Tony got in some trouble here and there, and since he was a minor, Linda was the responding officer, and who Marina would often communicate with using Elisa as an interpreter. I think now is a good time to talk about Elisa's family structure, because it is extremely relevant to her case. Here's Ruby again to explain.
My mom was born in Nicaragua, Bluefields, Nicaragua, and she had Elisa. Elisa was born there too. Elisa's dad, they had been together for some time, and then he went to work in Puerto Rico. I think it was. He went to go find work. And the irony of this whole thing is that he was never heard from again. He also disappeared and no one ever knew what happened to him. They just assumed on his travels that he met with some kind of trouble, and then just uh, yeah. And so that's the sad part of that is, it just from the very get-go, there's been just so much pain and trauma for, in my mom's life and in my family's life. And sometimes when you hear about like curses or and I'm always skeptical of things, but it's almost like sometimes certain things that happen when things aren't resolved, it just kind of leaks into the next generation, never gets resolved. Um, so my mom had Elisa, and my dad was a shrimper. He worked in with Gulf King Shrimp in South Texas. And South Texas, that's the king of the shrimping industry back in those days. And so my dad was a shrimper, and a lot of the trips they made were on the coast of Bluefields, Nicaragua, where my mom's from. And he had to go pick up some boat. There were some repairs that they had to be made, and they sent him to go and pick up that boat or ship. And so that's how he met my mom. She worked in a little restaurant in the village, and he'd go and eat there and talk to my mom, got to know her. Granted, he was only there for 2 weeks, and he asked her where certain things were in the little town, and my mom showed him around, like where the stores were and things like that. So in that time, they kind of fell in love. And then when my dad was getting ready to leave, he asked her to come back with them. He asked her if she would marry him. And my grandma was watching Elisa at the time because, of course, she was working. And so grandma was watching Elisa. So my dad didn't know anything about Elisa because, of course, he only saw my mom, you know, at work. And that was the first time she told him, well, I have a little girl, and I can't come with you unless I can bring my daughter. And that's when my dad told her, what kind of man would I be if I told you to leave your daughter behind? And so he says, absolutely. So before it was said and done, he married my mom, adopted my sister, and that was the end of that. I don't know exactly when they came to the States, but I was born shortly after that. And then Tony, it's like Elisa was born in 76, I was born in 77, and then Tony was born in 78. So it was like bam, bam, bam. They were busy. And so, yeah, so then my dad got into some trouble. He ended up getting sentenced. He got into some trouble with, and then he got sentenced. And it was during that time that my parents separated, of course, because of the situation. And from there, she ended up in a relationship with a man, Ralph Gonzalez, and they ended up having my baby brother, Alex, in 1984.
Ralph Gonzalez was not the father figure Marina was hoping for, and Elisa's family life was turbulent. But in the chaos, the kids stuck together, and despite being so close in age, Elisa was really like a mother figure to them.
Elisa was so much fun. There was a lot of, there were a lot of things going on in her family, right? You have a broken home, dad's in prison. I love my dad. He was a good man, but it almost felt like, trouble just seemed to find him or he seemed to find trouble. And so dad was not in the picture, at that time. He was later on when he was released I think it was in 1986 when he was released. He kind of came back into our lives and tried to make amends. Would take us kids on the weekends, take us to the beach or to have a barbecue at his place. So he tried to make amends towards those last few years. But when my mom got involved with Ralph, there was quite a bit of abuse that Ralph was inflicting on my mom, and of course on us kids. And I would often look back and I'd say, we were going through so much, and there was just a lot of bad stuff going on and hard things. But why were we always laughing? I always think, why were we always laughing? And the best way to explain it is in between us three little kids, because first it was me, Tony, and Elisa. We kind of had our little bond. We kind of had to shelter ourselves and protect ourselves from the big people problems, right? And in that little world that we created, there was a lot of laughter, a lot of fun. Elisa was the oldest, kind of the mother hen, making sure that we were doing what we were supposed to be doing, and that we were listening to mom. So she was kind of like the second in command, and we listened when she said, well, not always, but so that was Elisa, and she was funny. She was always laughing. It was the 80s, so 80s butt rock music was the thing. And so I remember she loved to, with the money she would make from babysitting jobs, she would buy her little tapes, play them. MTV, oh my God. MTV was the best. And we would just sit there. I remember she'd sit there with a notebook trying to write down the lyrics of the songs, the really cool songs. So Bon Jovi, Poison, Lita Ford, Motley Crue. I mean, my sister was a true 80s rocker, and she would have been a rocker chick, I think. So yeah, it was really fun. And I loved to hang out with her. I know I was a pain in the butt, but I just always wanted to tag along with her. And so that was Elisa.
But right before Elisa went missing, Ralph Gonzalez seemingly disappeared as well.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why customers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
What they did to your family, you're lucky to make it out alive.
Streaming on Peacock.
These men are going to come after me. Taking them out is my only chance.
Put a bullet in her head.
From the co-creator of Ozark.
Looks like a family was running drugs.
Execution-style killing is rare for the Keys. And it leads on who they might have been running for.
The cartel killed my family. I'm gonna kill them. All of them.
MIA. Streaming now. Only on Peacock.
My mom for years, I mean, and we're not talking, this is like a whole other level, and I wish people, I don't know if people really understand the extent of it. And even when I speak about it, sometimes it's hard for me even to believe it. It sounds like it's just not real and not true because it's so bad, like the things that were happening in our home. And my mom had tried for years, and we're talking brutal beatings. These weren't just like a slap here and these were like down on the ground, choking in front of us children, choking her, lifting her up on the wall, bloody face, while us little kids are watching, trying to protect our mom. The things he did to us kids, I mean, it's just horrible things, and nothing my mom could do, she could never get away from him. It just felt like she would leave him and he would physically drag her back by her hair. Like there were several times, she's kicking and screaming and he's dragging, and us little kids just kind of trying to process that as a little child. And many times he would drive her to these really deserted locations, and he would tell her, I can kill you and no one would ever find your body and nobody would even care to come looking for you. And so those threats were very frightening, especially when he inflicted that much pain. And then he also had, he was a drug mule. So he was dangerous. And the friends that he hung out with were very dangerous. And there was one time I was with my mom when one of his friends actually attacked my mom. We were in the back seat, and he actually attacked her with a knife. And my mom took off running. She with kids in tow, my little brother Alex and me just running to get to the nearest gas station. And she went to hide, and the gas station owner told her, "Lady, what are you doing with those people? Those are very dangerous people, and if I help you, they're going to come after me and my family." I mean, that's how dangerous of the situation it was. And no matter how many times my mom called the police, we were astonished when I did a records request last year that of all those times that the police were called, there was only one record of Ralph beating my mom and being arrested. So we found that kind of ironic. when my mom would make reports or would call the police, he would tell her, I have guardian angels in the police department. They run my errands. So then, of course, there's that thing in the back of your head, is there corruption in the local police department at that time? Were they paying him off somehow? Was he paying, So when he would make those threats, and he may have just been making them, but why on earth would he always, no matter how many times he'd get picked up or my mom would make a report, he never ended up arrested but that one time. And my mom said that what would be strange is he'd be arrested and by the end of the day he'd be out and right back at the house after he, you know, beat her. So that's just the one thing I just want to make very clear, that this wasn't just this was like very dangerous. And my mom knew, and she realized her life was in danger towards that time. I don't know how she was able to do it. I don't know if he just ended up, but he threatened her when she said when she just finally had it, and which she had told him several times before. She told him to, again, don't come back. And he had threatened her and said that he was going to do something to her where she's always going to remember him by, that no matter if she's not in his life, if he's not in her life, she's always going to remember him. And for a long time, she thought he was going to take our little brother, Alex. So she was vigilant in making sure he was safe, or that we were all watching over him, because she said any minute Ralph could take off. So, and that's the irony of it. It's just we were watching over Alex. And Ralph knew that Elisa was like, the way my mom explained it was like the foundation almost, because of her strength. She knew she just had a way about her, and she helped my mom so much, with the translating. Ralph knew that she was very valuable. All my mom's children, of course, we were all valuable, but Elisa would have caused the most damage, And that's why, of course, he was capable of it. He threatened her. He attempted to kill her. He threatened her. Our minds would just automatically go towards Ralph, because he was that type of person. One more thing before I move on. There was one time my mom was watching a news report, and they were talking about a woman that was murdered. And my mom said Ralph got up and went to the bathroom and he shaved his mustache. And so she said right then and there she knew that he was involved in this murder. And of course she was terrified. She was so terrified towards those last few months that he was going to kill her. So I just want to stress that. I can't stress that enough, that she knew that we were in danger, that she was in danger and her family was in danger.
Marina left Ralph for good, and he seemed to stay away. But when Linda Thompson with the Aransas Pass PD caught wind of Elisa going missing, she understood the urgency immediately. Despite the lackluster response initially, once Linda was on the case, they left no stone unturned looking for Elisa.
I remember our house is just being, it almost feels like an invasion, and I know they need to do what they need to do, but that's how it feels as a child. There's all these people in your home now, police officers in your home. They're talking to my mom. They're taking things of my sisters. They asked my mom if Elisa had a diary, so we gave them Elisa's diary. They asked for some articles, some like T-shirts, some clothes, socks. I know they took her tennis shoes. And then I remember them putting them in bags. I remember the dogs. They had bloodhounds. There were people, lots of volunteers. They told us to just stay in our house, just stay put unless Elisa comes home. But we couldn't just sit there. So we have, volunteers are out. They're searching on foot. My mom and us kids and her friends and other close friends, we started walking down the alleys looking for her. And I remember it being so hot, like so hot and being so thirsty, but you're just so focused. We got to find Elisa. So we're looking down alleyways, abandoned houses, buildings, dumpsters. Somebody even called the police on us saying we were acting suspicious, looking through people's houses and dumpsters.
The dogs ended up tracking Elisa's scent to right past Keyburger Elementary School, where she and Debbie were supposed to meet up. but her trail ended there. And this directly correlated with some witness statements that Elisa was seen getting into a red or maroon car at about the same location.
So the bloodhounds, they followed her scent past Keyburger Elementary. So we believe she made it to her destination and just kept walking because her and Debbie were going to eventually meet at that point. So we think she made it right past Keyburger Elementary. Through this, we did find that there was the witness. He was a friend of ours that lived on Goodnight Avenue, that he had seen Elisa get into a maroon car. There were some other witnesses. Mr. Barker, right, lived just through their kitchen window. They could see our house. So they saw Elisa leave the house that night. And you have Jennifer Taylor, her dad and brother, who saw her. Abel Alani saw, or not Abel, his brother Elijah, and another witness down the street said they saw her. So we can track her that was the street she was on and where she was picked up. And we believe she was picked up by someone she knew, because there was no fight, there was no struggle, there was no screaming. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon. People are out, probably barbecuing, doing, had something happened, we believe she would have been screaming bloody murder. We would have heard it. Somebody would have heard it. So we do believe she was picked up by someone she knew and trusted.
Ralph Gonzalez was not someone Elisa loved or trusted. So Linda and the Aransas Pass PD began going down the list of who Elisa did love or trust, as always starting with her family. I told you earlier that Elisa's house was searched. Investigators also spoke with her entire family. And since this is 1989, they gave her mom Marina a polygraph test, and she passed. Ruby's father, who raised Elisa, was cleared as well. In fact, he actually did a bit of his own investigation to find Elisa.
My dad was on a fishing boat, so he was out to sea, and they radioed him in and said, "Your daughter's missing." And I don't remember how, if it was the next day, 2 days later, I don't know. I just know then all of a sudden my dad's there. And he took Tony and he says, we kind of did this little breaking up in teams kind of. So we went looking here and he says, "I'm going to take Tony. We're going to go, wherever they went." So my dad, he even went to Mexico. He was looking for Ralph. Because one thing that was really big, that there was, let's just face it, it's South Texas. You get the shrimping boats coming in and out. There's a lot of activity. Drugs are being brought in. What an easy way for drugs to come in, right? Is through those boats. Drug trafficking, human trafficking, sex trafficking. Even Ralph would tell my mom that he would talk about taking girls to these places in Mexico to sell them. So my dad was no dummy. He did his investigation searching for Elisa. He knew, because he spent a lot of time, and he that's how he thought. And then he also confronted Ralph at one point he cornered him in a bathroom in a bar and basically told him, "If you have anything to do with, taking my daughter, I'm going to kill you."
Ruby told me she wasn't sure if her dad really believed Ralph was responsible for Elisa's disappearance, but he fought for answers just the same. Her entire family and Linda Thompson with the Aransas Pass PD did too. Despite that initial response, they really did pour every resource they had into her case. The community showed up for her as well. Jennifer Taylor's father, and a witness in this case, had her flyers printed. And when Marina went to the local news station to ask them to share Elisa's information, they agreed. But Elisa's case was and still is complicated. The witness statements about seeing her get into a red or maroon car were kind of a curveball. Could Ralph have somehow coerced her into getting into the car? Well, Ruby doesn't think so. Of course, we can't rule out a stranger abduction. But there was someone else the police wanted to speak with. Debbie's father, Bob Green, the man who was supposed to give Elisa a ride home that night.
It's a little bit of a blur, but I remember them talking to me, questioning me, or just asking questions. And then And then I have a vivid memory of Bob Green and Debbie Green being there at the police station. And so Bob Green is talking to them. He's in a room. And then all of a sudden I see him storm out, and he's walking fast. He's angry. And he says, "Come on, Debbie, let's go." Because she was waiting in the waiting room too with us. And he takes off, just bolts out. And I remember thinking, why is he so mad? I couldn't understand what was going on. And I didn't know. But I guess probably early on there were some things being asked, some questions being asked that were uncomfortable. I'm sure that, and he had a right to walk out. That's not necessarily saying there's guilt there. But his reaction just kind of shocked me.
This is where I have to leave you this week. In part 2 of my coverage of the disappearance of Elisa Roberson, I'm going to dive into Bob Green, Ralph Gonzalez, and more. We're also going to examine a more recent and odd turn in Elisa's case, and of course, how you can help. As a reminder, 13-year-old Blanca Elisa Roberson was last seen walking away from her home on the evening of August 6, 1989, in Aransas Pass, Texas. She is Hispanic with brown hair and brown eyes. At the time of her disappearance, she was approximately 5 feet tall and weighed about 120 pounds. She was last seen wearing a light blue Mickey Mouse t-shirt and blue shorts. She does have a scar on her right knee. Anyone with information is asked to contact the Aransas Pass Police Department at 361-758-5224. You can also contact Elisa's family directly at missingelisa1989@gmail.com or the Missing Elisa Roberson Facebook page, which is linked in the episode description. But as always, thank you, I love you, and I'll talk to you next time. Voices for Justice is hosted and produced by me, Sarah Turney, and is a Voices for Justice media original. If you love what we do here, please don't forget to follow, rate, and review the show in your podcast player. It's an easy and free way to help us and help more people find these cases in need of justice.